ProtoWizard 4.0 Ring 1 Tutorial. ProtoWizard 4.0 has many new features. We have multi-sided ring cutting, rotary cutting, and many different jewelry builders, including ring tube, head wizard, and three-sided rings. In this tutorial, we're going to build ring number 1 out of our sample tutorials. First, select the file. Then you'll notice that the Core and Supports button is now activated. This must be selected before you can continue on with any other functions. Notice that in ProtoWizard 4.0, we now have a very optimized profile boundary all the way around the part. This boundary enables us to better cut the part in the least amount of time by following the exact shape of the part. This will become more important in other shapes. Next, go to the Operations tab where we have planar cutting, curves, multi-sided, and rotary. Curves are not activated right now because there are no curves imported into this file. On rings, the first thing we're going to do is a multi-sided cutting. You can also use templates to either save away your operations to be used at a later time, or to use to quickly streamline the import of all the functions and operations that you might be using. The multi-sided function we're going to use right now, very similar to what has been used in the past. You select your tool, and notice that the tools can now be edited inside of ProtoWizard 4. This is a new feature that allows you to edit a tool on the fly without having to completely rebuild it. Now that we've selected our tool, you can enter in a description, a special one if you wish, or you can use the default two-sided flip. Now it gives us a chance to look at our boundaries. We can now apply different boundary parameters to the part. In this particular case, we're going to cut all the way to the boundary itself, since this will be our roughing operation. Now that you've selected OK, you now assign this operation to a program. Since we haven't started any yet, program 1 is our default. So we'll add that to our operation list and hit OK. Now the operation has been added to program 1, but we're nowhere finished yet with this part. So let's select multi-sided again. However, this time we're going to do radial cutting, which is typically a finish type operation. So we'll go back and select our tool again, since we're going to use the same tool. However, this time we're going to change some of the parameters. We're going to tell ProtoWizard that we only want to cut to the part edge, and we only want to cut from -60 to +60 around this part. Hitting apply, you can now see your boundary zone that has changed around the part itself. We're going to continue adding this particular operation to program 1 because it's a continuation of the roughing passes that we have just completed. Now selecting the rotary button, we can go in and assign a rotary function for the rotary part of this operation. Parameters are very similar to what we've used in the past. However, you can also assign a boundary in your rotary operation as well. Since this is going to be a full cut part, we'll go ahead and leave all the default parameters. However, we are going to cut to the part edge so we don't drop over the edge. This is a new optimized feature in ProtoWizard 4. There's one more thing we wish to do to this particular part. Because it has a deep bezel in the center, we're not going to want to cut that out in the rotary operation all by itself. So we're going to cut that out separately using another multi-sided cut. However, we're going to tell it that we wish to use the rotary position. And we're going to add this to program 2 with our other rotary cuts. Notice we're going to change to a rectangular cutting area, and we're going to restrict the cutting area to just around the bezel. We're also going to turn on a blocking surface and change the diameter of this surface to 17 millimeters to fill the full finger hole diameter. This will prevent the surface from dropping, the cuts to be dropping past the ring on and through the blocking surface. We're going to add this to program 2 since this is part of our rotary operations, but we're going to move it up in our list so that this top-down multi-sided cut is done before the rotary cut. So that way the basket is completely cut out. Now let's look at our toolpath. Notice that our red X's changed to green check boxes that tells us that toolpath has been calculated for that particular operation. Here's our two-sided flip roughing passes. Now let's look at the radial cut. Notice that the radial cut did not drop over the edge because we told it to not to drop past the edge of the part. This is one of our new parameters that you can select to further optimize your cutting motion. Now we're looking at our top down, but I see that I forgot something. I forgot to tell it to do it in multiple passes. We don't want to cut all the way down this in one shot. We would like to do it in 2 millimeter increments. So we'll go back and edit this in 1 second. Let's look at our rotary cuts first. Once again, notice that the toolpath did not drop over the edge. Again, this is an optimization parameter that is now installed in ProtoWizard 4. Now let's go back and edit that full-sided or one-sided flip up or one-sided operation in the top of our bezel. What I'm going to do is change my maximum depth of cut to 2 millimeters. So now it will break up the operation up into 2 millimeter depths of cut all the way to the bottom of the cutting area, or in this case, our blocking surface. Now if you review these cuts that you see a little closer, you can see that the levels that are left into the part itself. You can see that there were multiple levels of cuts that were made here. This is leaving the inside of the basket of the head itself stronger until the very last cut when all the material is finally removed. So it's only cutting 2 millimeters at a time. So this is a very good way to safely cut out large, deep basket areas on the heads or other areas of parts. Finally, all that's left to do is to create our NC file. You have your machine post-processor list here that you can select from. All you do is then click on Create the Machine Program, and notice that the default file name is the file name of our part. This is perfectly acceptable because it's going to put out Ring 1, Program 1, and Ring 1, Program 2. And this is all there is to it.